Jim is a founding member of THHI, along with Commissioner Sandy Merman. She's also a founding member of THHI. Thank you all for your support. And again, thanks to Felicia Crosby Rucker for her support over before I got here. She had called me and said, I'm not sure what happened when they came down to up to St. Louis to visit, but you should come. And so she's been really supportive since before I got here. So thank you for your support over the last 8 years. And again, Kathy James is our financial manager. Thank you for keeping all of us straight, and especially me, keep me out of trouble. I appreciate you. So a little bit about me. As Jim said, I'm Antoinette Hayes-Triplett, the CEO for the Tampa Hillsboro Homeless Initiative. I've been here 8 years. I served under Mayor Slade in St. Louis for 13 years, doing something similar to this, working on the issue of homelessness, working as the lead agency of the Continuum of Care. And you'll hear me say COC, and that's short for Continuum of Care. The Continuum of Care is designated by the federal government, the state government, and local government to oversee the issue of homelessness in a particular jurisdiction. And for us, we oversee homelessness in Hillsborough County. And part of what we do is we receive federal, state, and local funds, and we administer those funds. We also monitor the agency's progress and outcomes related to those funds. We also conduct the annual point-in-time count, counting how many people are experiencing homelessness in our community. And then we work on collectively on a county-wide or community-wide strategic plan on homelessness, and I'll talk to you about that shortly. I'll first talk to you a little bit about the point-in-time count. I could talk to you like for hours about this stuff, so PJ told me about 10 minutes, so I'll try to keep it short. So the point-in-time count, we've been conducting a point-in-time count since before I got here. Some of the issues that we had prior to me coming is HUD requires us to count those that are literally homeless, meaning they're on the streets or living in places not meant for human habitation, and those that are residing in emergency shelters and facilities such as that. We do not count those that are doubled up. And so a couple of predecessors, they counted the number that were doubled up. And before I got here, HUD wanted to see what was going on. Tampa had the highest number of homelessness, almost in the country. But those numbers were not accurate. So we really started keeping really accurate numbers in 2014. And since 2014, we've seen a steady decrease in homelessness in our community. When I got here in 2014, we had over 1,100 people sleeping on the streets in Hillsborough County. And when I talked to our county representatives about what some of my visions were to reduce homelessness, they reacted immediately. And we opened what we call is a community housing solution center. And within a few months, we had that community housing solution center open, people moved in, and that was 75 additional beds. The county has really stepped up when we've asked them to with seed money for different things that we need and to just expand our services. So I really appreciate our relationship with them. So in 2022, what does homelessness look like? Our numbers will come out on June the 10th. We have a board meeting on the 9th, so I have to tell the board before I tell you all what the numbers are. I do expect for us to have an increase in homelessness in our community. The numbers we're taking in February of every year across the country, everyone must do a homeless point-in-time count. The time frame is usually the last week of January, but because of Gasparilla, we get a waiver to do it in February. So every February, we hold a point-in-time count. Traditionally, the point-in-time count consists of about 500 volunteers going throughout the community, counting people that are on the streets in places not meant for human habitation, but also we get the numbers from the shelters about how many people are experiencing homelessness. I expect us to see an increase this year in the number of people experiencing homelessness. But what has started to alarm us, probably back in 2018 when we started working on the strategic plan, is the number of senior citizens that were on the streets walking with wheelchairs and things like that. And that started to alarm us, so we put together the strategic plan to address some of those issues, and I'll talk about that shortly. But since 2018, we've seen a 67% increase in the number of people 62 and older coming into the system of homelessness, meaning we've engaged them in outreach, meaning on the streets or in shelters or similar situations, a 67% increase. And that's alarming. We should do something about that. So in 2018, the previous county administrator, Mike Merrill, and I had a discussion. He said the numbers are going down, a little bit by little bit, but I need to see something more significant. What do you envision? And when I left St. Louis, the number of people sleeping on the streets in St. Louis was less than 100 people. And I told him that. I said, I envisioned that we would have less than 100 people sleeping on the streets in Hillsborough County. And what did that look like? So when we did the Community Housing Solutions Center, before that we had over 1,100 people sleeping on the streets. Now we're down to about 600 people sleeping on the streets in Hillsborough County. It's way too many. And so to get down to less than 100, we developed the 560 and 560 strategic plan on homelessness. That was to house 560 people in 560 days, giving them housing opportunities. And that started in June 2019 when we wrote the plan. We met with county officials, I believe in September of that year, and they gave us seed money for the strategic plan right around January of 2020. So as we were getting ready to implement all the things in the strategic plan, guess what happens? COVID. So it really shifted the way and the momentum of what we could do. There are 10 initiatives in the strategic plan. I won't go over all of them, but of the 10, about 8 are housing focused. I will go over one of the initiatives in the strategic plan. The strategic plan starts from how can we prevent people from becoming homelessness. So we have initiatives related to that. The middle part is how do we move people out of homelessness? And then the end part, how do we sustain that housing for them? So the beginning part, we had things like the expungement clinic with the state's attorney's office. We did, I believe, 4 or 5 of those. The first one, word of mouth, it was a little slow. By the time we got to the 3rd or 4th one, we had to close the doors within 30 minutes. We were busting out at the seams. Someone at the state's attorney's office announced, everyone's not going to get seen, and we almost had a mutiny on our hand because everybody wanted to have their records expunged. And so we worked with them. They provided the pro bono work for us, and we paid the fee that was required. We had Second Chance Job Fair. We have a hotspot mobile outreach command center that will go out to hotspots throughout the community and engage people that are homeless and offer them housing and services. Toward the end, we have a thing we call speed leasing, and speed leasing was an initiative to get landlords and people that are experiencing homelessness and their case managers together in one room. And then the pandemic happened. So what we went to is doing it via Zoom, and that was pretty successful until the housing crisis, gave us another whack. And before that, we had over 100 units coming to the table for people that were experiencing homelessness. Now we don't have one, so we have not done the speed leasing in probably over a year. The other thing that I really want to talk to you about is shared housing, and that's the answer to working with those that are seniors. So when we started with shared housing, we said we would do 50 shared housing across the community. And shared housing was to work with investors to purchase homes for people to share the cost of living. Typically, a person receiving Social Security receives about maybe $800 to $1,000 a month. That's not enough money to rent an apartment in Hillsborough County. So what we thought is if they could share, have some camaraderie, because maybe they lived on the streets together, that would be a win-win. The other win is that we would improve the housing stock in some of our low-income neighborhoods. So we go in, buy the house, rehab it, and make sure someone has some place to live, maybe some jobs associated with the rehab, but also improving the housing stock in the community. The last part of the shared housing, we wanted to invest in the community and build generational wealth. So we have a plan for people that already live in the community to partner with us to buy a house as an investment property. So that'll be down the line since, you know, things have changed in the housing market. When we started shared housing, we wanted to invest about $70,000, have the investor come to the table with about $70,000. We could buy something and rehab it. Our board just recently approved for us to go up to $175,000 because we weren't finding anything for you know, $70,000 or $70,000 for the investor. So we have two. We did a pilot. We did 2 houses. They were 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes, and we had 4 senior vets, males living in one house, and senior vet females, veterans, military veterans. I'm a veteran, so I have a soft spot for vets. And we had 4 females living in the other house. And so now we have 2 more that we believe we will be closing on in the coming days. And that will be 3 bedrooms, 2-bathroom, brand new homes. The cost of the homes, before we got the homes for $100,000, now the homes are $300,000. So we've had to make that shift. And what I want to say is that we want to continue to do the shared housing. We have another initiative called the Beach House. Many people that you see that are on the streets would never be able to sign a lease, would never be able, maybe even to tell you their names, but we should provide housing. And so the Beach House is a very low barrier concept that a person doesn't have to have income. They don't even have to know their name. They come in off the streets, we give them someplace safe to live, and then we provide wraparound services. But our local government, our federal government cannot do this alone. The funds that come into THHI, even to our county government, our city government, it's not enough money to eradicate homelessness. We've been talking about what does homelessness look like in Hillsborough County. 99.9% of us will have some place to lay our head at night. Only 0.1%, not 1%, 0.1% of us are experiencing homelessness. And I think that there's an avenue where the 99% of us can contribute 0.1% of our income, our business revenue, in order to house those that will never be able to get a unit on their own. And so that's what we've been doing. That's the problem, and we think we have a solution. And so we're going to be working, this is probably new to Jim and Sandy a little bit. They'll hear about more details at the board meeting. But so we're looking at how do we scale up our plan, our strategic plan. The $4.7 million from the county has been really helpful, but as the cost of housing goes up, if we don't do something now, you know, our city and our county is growing so fast. We're fortunate because we have excellent service providers that the number of homelessness has not skyrocketed, just like the number of people that are coming into our community. You know, people compare us, you know, to Seattle and Austin and DC now. They have a huge homeless problem, and we don't want that in our community. We want to make sure that we are taking care of our neighbors as much as possible. So we'll be talking about what does the 0.1% maybe challenge looks like for our community and how we all can get involved. I was talking to some colleagues and we were talking about 0.1. Did you say 0.1 or did you say 1%? 0.1 is if someone's making $40,000, their contribution would be $40 to make sure that we could house every person that's experiencing homelessness. So it's not a lot of money. If you're making $100,000, your contribution is $100 towards making sure that we have safe places for people to call home. So I'll end it there, and if you have any questions, I'll take those.
Johnson, your hand's going up.